Mastering yourself before chasing success is the secret few understand, yet it shapes every achievement you will ever earn. This audiobook delivers actionable strategies to build discipline, character, and resilience, so your victories are meaningful, sustainable, and aligned with your true potential. Each chapter equips you with practical tools to transform daily habits into lasting strength, teaching you to thrive under pressure, embrace accountability, and cultivate patience long before recognition or prosperity appears. Subscribe now and gain access to insights that will accelerate your growth, sharpen your focus, and ensure that every step you take leads toward genuine, unstoppable success. Number 1. Discipline. Daily before recognition arrives. Dawn is a small, honest moment. The room is quiet, the light is thin and gray, and the world has not yet decided to notice what you are doing. Discipline lives in that hour. It is the practice of choosing one more minute of effort, one more page read, one more repetition, when applause is absent, and the only witness is the person in the mirror. The point is not to earn recognition immediately. The point is to build an inner architecture so solid that success, when it comes, rests on a foundation rather than a whim. Discipline is not dramatic. It is the steady application of choice, again and again until behavior becomes the default. Imagine a river worn through rock. The water does not shout, it persists. That persistence carves landscapes. The same is true for character. Repeated small acts, waking up when the alarm sounds, finishing what was started, speaking truth quietly, shape the person who shows up on big days. This chapter is a practical manual for that quiet work, how daily discipline is cultivated, how to protect it, and how to use it to prepare for recognition that will one day arrive. Begin with a simple truth. Motivation is fickle. Discipline is reliable. Motivation surges like weather, bright and energizing, then gone. Discipline is the umbrella carried regardless of forecast. The first practical step is to separate intention from action. Intention is desire, action is habit. Turn intentions into tiny, repeatable actions that are easy to do even on low-energy days. If the goal is better health, do 5 push-ups today. If the aim is clearer thinking, read 1 paragraph. If financial shoring up is needed, move 1 saved amount into a separate account. The goal is consistency, not spectacle. Success requires momentum, and momentum is produced by many small, unglamorous decisions aligned over time. Design the environment to favor the behavior you want. The mind resists friction. Structure reduces it. Place a glass of water on the bedside table instead of the phone. Put running shoes by the door. Remove the app that steals the hour you mean to spend writing. Make the path of least resistance also the path of discipline. This is not deprivation. It is practical engineering of attention. If the environment tempts, the will must work twice as hard. Why expend extra willpower when a small rearrangement can make discipline easier? Create anchors, specific moments tied to existing routines. After brushing teeth, practice 5 minutes of focused breathing. After lunch, write 2 lines toward your project. Anchoring binds new behaviors to old, leveraging existing neural pathways. This technique reduces decision fatigue and turns discipline into an almost automatic response to a cue. The more precise the anchor, the less room for negotiation. Vague intentions breed excuses. Precise anchors remove them. Measure what matters and make the measurement visible. Keep a simple habit log. Mark an X on a calendar or maintain a 1-line journal. Visual feedback is a quiet but fierce motivator. Seeing a chain of X's that must not be broken creates a small internal contract. When the chain grows, breaking it feels like fracturing personal integrity. Use this to your advantage. Track only the behaviors that compound toward character, consistency of practice, honesty in small transactions, daily acts of courage. The log is not about judgment. It is about truth. Facing the record of what actually happened accelerates improvement. Discipline is sharpened by constraint. Choosing limits. Limited social media time. No screens an hour before bed. A set time to stop work. Creates mental clarity. Constraints force choices and reveal priorities. When options are endless, willpower is taxed. When options are bounded, discipline becomes strategy. Practice saying no to good things in service of what matters most. This is not sacrifice for punishment. It is selection for purpose. Accountability changes the game. Private discipline is powerful, but public accountability multiplies it. Share a small, specific goal with one trusted person. Give precise terms, what will be done, when, and how it will be reported. The report must be brief and factual. Did the action occur, and the consequences honest? Accountability must be chosen, not imposed. When the choice is voluntary, the action trains character rather than obedience. Choose an accountability partner who models the standards you aspire toward, or be accountable to a visible tracker, a public commitment, or a small community that values steady work. Expect failure and design recovery. Discipline is not linear. There will be days when the alarm is ignored, the plan derails, or the promise is broken. The critical skill is not perfection but repair. Pre-commit to a recovery protocol. If the habit breaks, do a corrective action within 24 hours, an extra practice session, an honest note in the log, a restoration of the chain. Avoid the all or nothing trap. Missing once is only data. How quickly responsibility is taken and the corrective action executed is the real test of character. The quickest route back to discipline is immediate, simple re-engagement. Practice micro-discipline to strengthen the macro. Micro-discipline is choosing the small, slightly difficult option now because it aligns with long-term goals. It could be ordering a healthy meal, returning an email promptly, or finishing a paragraph before checking messages. Each micro-choice is a brick laid in the edifice of identity. Over months, these bricks accumulate into a recognizable structure, a person who does what is promised to themselves. The identity shift is subtle but decisive. The habit of keeping small promises to oneself generalizes into keeping larger promises to others and to projects. Language matters. Speak to yourself with clarity and reserve. Replace vague, permissive phrases with concrete commitments. Instead of try to exercise, say exercise 20 minutes at 6:30. Replace I'll get to it with I will write 400 words today. Precise language narrows the space for negotiation. Stoic practice teaches that the self who speaks clearly acts more clearly. Words become commands to the psyche. Treat them with the same seriousness as external contracts. Cultivate a ritual to start and finish each day. The morning ritual anchors intention. The evening ritual consolidates learning. A morning ritual might be waking, drinking water, sitting for 5 minutes of focused breathing, or reading a short passage of something that inspires discipline. An evening ritual could be jotting 3 wins of the day and 1 lesson. These rituals close the loop on the day. They begin with purpose and end with reflection. Rituals are not magical. They are reliable cues that summon the best parts of oneself when fatigue or distraction threaten. Use discomfort as a training ground. Seek small, prudent challenges that create resilience. Cold showers, a hard run, difficult conversations that need to be had. These are not tests of bravado but controlled exposures that teach the nervous system how to handle pressure. The Stoic idea is simple. Endure the small storms to avoid being overwhelmed by larger ones. When difficulty is expected, fear diminishes and discipline grows. The body and mind learn that discomfort is temporary and that action is the remedy. Act with purpose in the present moment. Discipline is often mistaken for rigid denial of pleasure. True discipline embraces the full spectrum of life, but chooses what aligns with long-term flourishing rather than immediate impulse. This requires presence, awareness of the moment, and the long-term consequence of choices made now. Practice pausing before action. A 3-second pause before a habitual reaction creates a space where intention can be chosen. Over time, that pause becomes the doorway to thoughtful action, rather than mindless habit. Finally, remember that recognition will arrive if discipline is genuine. External reward is not guaranteed. Timing is not predictable. Yet a life constructed around disciplined action produces competence, trust, and the quiet calm that precedes public reward. Recognition should be regarded as a potential byproduct, not the architect of effort. When applause arrives, it will be sustained because the underlying character supports it. When it does not arrive, the person who has practiced discipline still has an ordered life, inner peace, and the capacity to try again. Daily discipline is both humble and heroic. It is humble because it asks for ordinary acts done consistently. It is heroic because those acts change the trajectory of a life. Begin small, design for success, measure honestly, recover quickly, and practice again. The person who chooses discipline in the quiet hours prepares an unshakable self for the noisy world. In time, recognition may come, but whether it does or not, the labor of discipline ensures a life lived on purpose, with integrity, and with power shaped from within rather than borrowed from external applause. Number 2, values first, victories later. Success that lasts is never built on shortcuts, compromise, or fleeting wins. It is constructed upon a framework of deeply held values, a moral compass that guides each decision, each interaction, each moment of choice. Achieving a goal without a foundation of values is like building a house on sand. It may stand for a while, but the first storm will test it, and often it collapses. True victories are not measured solely by external recognition, money, or accolades. They are the result of aligning action with principle, of living in such a way that each choice strengthens the person you aspire to become. Values first, victories later, always. That is a principle for life, not a slogan. Understanding your core values is the starting point. This is not a casual reflection. It is deliberate excavation. Ask yourself, when no one is watching, what matters most to you? Is it honesty in your dealings, even when deceit could gain you advantage? Is it loyalty to those who trust you, even when it demands sacrifice? Is it courage to act in alignment with your beliefs, even when convenient compromise beckons? Write these down, prioritize them. The clarity of what you value acts as a beacon in moments of confusion, a measure to weigh choices against, and a shield against drifting aimlessly toward hollow victory. Living values first is often uncomfortable. Integrity does not always reward immediately, and consistency can feel like restraint in a world built for impulsivity. Choosing what is right over what is easy requires attention and practice. The small daily decisions are the crucible in which character is forged. Returning the extra change given by mistake, delivering on promises no one is watching, refusing to gossip or manipulate, honoring commitments even when inconvenient. These are ordinary acts, yet they accumulate into an identity that is recognized and trusted in extraordinary situations. Without this base, outward victories are fragile and temporary. The relationship between values and action is not theoretical. It is deeply practical. Values guide the decisions that accumulate over time into results. When a choice arises, pause to consider, does this align with what I stand for? Acting without reflection may yield immediate gain, but it erodes credibility and self-respect. Acting with alignment builds a reputation that compounds silently and powerfully. Over months and years, individuals who make choices based on principle are far more resilient to setbacks, criticism, and temptation. They have internal consistency, a compass that allows them to navigate challenges without losing orientation. Values-first living transforms the concept of victory. Victory is no longer merely about a number in a bank account, a title, or applause. Victory becomes the quiet affirmation that one has acted correctly, courageously, and with integrity. There is deep satisfaction in knowing that, whatever the external outcome, the action was honorable. This is a lesson in patience as well. The world often rewards expediency, but the rewards earned without values are transient. Real triumph emerges when skill, effort, and opportunity intersect with ethical action. The wins that last are always built on the foundation of consistent, principled choices. Decision-making is an ongoing laboratory for values. When confronted with temptation, shortcuts, deception, laziness, or convenience, test your principles. Keep a journal that records not just achievements, but moments of ethical choice. Note when you upheld your standards and when you failed. Reflection turns routine behavior into conscious practice. Understanding patterns of compromise illuminates the areas where discipline and courage are required. The journal becomes a mirror, revealing where values align with behavior and where adjustments are necessary. The conscious mind gradually trains the unconscious habits, embedding integrity in the everyday rhythm of life. Action guided by values demands clarity of boundaries. Knowing what you will not compromise on strengthens resolve and reduces moral ambiguity. Boundaries are protective. They safeguard the principles you hold dear, prevent drift into actions that erode character, and provide a framework for consistent decision-making. Articulate your boundaries clearly to yourself and, where appropriate, to others. Boundaries do not restrict potential. They channel energy toward meaningful outcomes and cultivate respect from those who recognize consistency. Discipline in maintaining these boundaries nurtures long-term trust and credibility. Values-first living nurtures humility and perspective. True victories require recognition that the world is larger than personal ambition. When values guide action, victories are shared, not hoarded. Success benefits not only oneself, but those who are impacted by decisions. Leadership rooted in principle fosters loyalty, cooperation, and sustainable growth. Short-term gains achieved through compromise, manipulation, or ethical laxity may impress for a moment, but they erode relationships, reputation, and internal peace. Acting with integrity generates a type of wealth that is invisible yet essential: trust, respect, and the quiet confidence of knowing one has acted rightly. The interplay of patience and foresight is critical. Values-first living teaches delayed gratification, a willingness to defer immediate recognition in service of enduring achievement. Sacrifices are inevitable, saying no to expedience, resisting shortcuts, enduring criticism for doing the right thing. This patience is not passive, it is active discipline, the conscious choice to prioritize principle over reward, preparation over instant applause. Victories earned on this path are profoundly satisfying because they are both deserved and durable. They confirm the alignment of character with action, reinforcing a cycle of integrity that continues to compound. Conflict will inevitably test values. When external pressures, societal norms, or popular opinion clash with personal principles, discipline and alignment becomes essential. This is the moment when character is visible, not hidden. A principled stance may be uncomfortable, lonely, or costly. It may provoke doubt or criticism from those who value expediency over ethics. Yet every stand taken for principle strengthens the inner foundation. Each decision reinforces the internal architecture that will later support larger victories. The measure of a person is not how easily they win, but how consistently they adhere to their values under pressure. Practical application begins with daily reflection and conscious choice. At the start of each day, identify the principles that will guide your actions. Consider the tasks, interactions, and decisions ahead. Ask, how can I honor my values in each? This mental rehearsal primes behavior for alignment. During the day, check in with yourself regularly. Moments of distraction, irritation, or fatigue are often the moments when shortcuts tempt you most. The habit of deliberate pause and evaluation reinforces alignment with principle, embedding ethical decision-making into natural behavior. Each choice becomes a brick in the foundation of character. Celebrate victories quietly, but never allow them to overshadow principles. A promotion, a completed project, or public recognition is meaningful, but its significance is amplified when it is consistent with personal values. Avoid framing success as validation of worth. Instead, view it as confirmation that disciplined, principled action produces tangible outcomes. External recognition is welcome but not required. It is an echo of internal alignment. True satisfaction comes from the knowledge that the action itself was right, courageous, and deliberate. Ultimately, values-first living is the cultivation of an inner compass that is impervious to fleeting trends, external pressure, or ephemeral gains. It creates a life where victory is not occasional or accidental, but inevitable through the alignment of action, principle, and perseverance. Daily practice of integrity, clarity of purpose, and ethical consistency builds a momentum that carries a person steadily toward enduring success. Those who prioritize values before victories become not only achievers, but architects of trust, models of resilience, and individuals whose lives echo with quiet, undeniable authority. Every choice matters. Every small act, repeated consistently, compounds into a life that is recognized for more than mere achievement. Acting with honesty when it is inconvenient, speaking truth in moments of uncertainty, and committing to principle before applause creates a powerful cycle of reinforcement. The more one acts in accordance with values, the more naturally victories follow. True success is never rushed. It is the byproduct of a deliberate, principled life, cultivated patiently, diligently, and courageously. Those who put values first are never truly lost, for their path, guided by unwavering principles, inevitably leads to meaningful and lasting triumph. Number 3. Integrity built when nobody watches. Integrity is not a performance. It does not rely on applause, acknowledgement, or recognition. Its measure is invisible to the crowd, assessed only by the silent witness of self. True character is forged in solitude, in moments when no one else observes, when the temptation to cut corners, bend rules, or rationalize compromise whispers quietly in the mind. Those moments define who a person is more than any public success ever could. Integrity built when nobody watches is the foundation upon which all meaningful achievement rests. Without it, every victory is hollow, every accomplishment fragile, and every reputation precarious. To cultivate this type of integrity, it is essential to understand its nature. It is not an abstract moral concept, but a practical, observable pattern of behavior. Integrity manifests as consistency between belief, word, and action. When private choices align with public principles, character grows. When they do not, cracks form. The challenge lies in the private arena, where no one else can enforce accountability. It is the choice to act rightly when there is no external consequence, the decision to follow rules that are inconvenient, the commitment to honesty when deception offers immediate benefit. These choices accumulate into a self-reinforcing cycle of trustworthiness and reliability. A practical approach begins with heightened awareness. Observe the subtle decisions made in moments of solitude, returning a lost item without expectation of reward, completing a task even when it will go unnoticed, resisting the urge to exaggerate or misrepresent oneself. Each of these small acts, though invisible externally, strengthens internal character. By consciously noting these moments, the mind begins to treat them as opportunities rather than mundane occurrences. Journaling private victories can reinforce the significance of integrity, creating a feedback loop that affirms the value of acting rightly without external validation. Routine shapes character quietly. Setting personal standards for behavior, even when no one else is watching, is crucial. Establishing non-negotiable habits creates a framework that reduces reliance on impulse. For example, honoring deadlines even when unsupervised, adhering to a fitness regimen, or keeping financial commitments regardless of oversight, trains the mind and body to prioritize principle over convenience. Over time, these repeated choices become automatic, a reflection of internal discipline that does not require observation to function. Character becomes embedded in daily action rather than contingent on recognition. Self-deception is one of the most insidious threats to integrity. The mind is capable of rationalizing nearly any compromise, turning convenience into necessity or dishonesty into harmlessness. To counteract this, it is necessary to cultivate brutal honesty with oneself. Ask hard questions. Was this decision made because it was right, or because it was easy? Did I act to impress, or did I act because it aligned with my principles? The habit of self-interrogation develops discernment and prevents the slow erosion of integrity through rationalized shortcuts. Personal truth becomes a guiding light, unwavering even when the external world is indifferent. Discipline intersects with integrity in profound ways. Both require the ability to resist momentary impulses for the sake of long-term alignment with principle. When no one is watching, the will is tested in its purest form. Choose to act in accordance with values, and discipline strengthens. Neglect this practice, and habits of convenience take root, quietly undermining confidence and self-respect. Small, deliberate acts of alignment, finishing what was begun, honoring commitments, maintaining promises to oneself, form the bedrock of a life defined by integrity. Each decision reinforces the capacity to act rightly in increasingly complex circumstances. Integrity also requires patience and perspective. The rewards of acting correctly in private are often delayed, invisible, or intangible. Immediate gratification may tempt deviation, yet enduring character is built through delayed benefit. Recognize that invisible acts compound over time. The habit of consistent honesty, the dedication to personal standards, the commitment to private excellence, All of these form a momentum that shapes public perception and future opportunities. External recognition eventually follows, but it is no longer the measure of worth. It is a reflection of what has already been cultivated in private. Boundaries are a critical aspect of private integrity. Knowing where personal ethics begin and end establishes a framework for decision-making. Boundaries clarify what is unacceptable, what cannot be compromised, and what defines one's identity even in isolation. By articulating these limits internally, a person creates a personal code that governs behavior beyond the gaze of others. Boundaries reduce ambiguity, prevent rationalization, and maintain consistency between private action and public principle. They act as a compass when external cues are absent, ensuring that choices remain aligned with core values. The cultivation of integrity demands courage. It is easier to conform to convenience, to act in ways that go unnoticed, or to rationalize ethical compromise. Courage is required to honor commitments, speak truths, and maintain standards when the world offers no applause and when shortcuts are abundant. This courage is not a grand, heroic gesture. It is quiet, repeated, and ordered. It manifests in resisting dishonesty in small transactions, choosing labor over avoidance, and upholding standards that are inconvenient. Through repeated exercise, moral courage becomes an intrinsic part of character rather than a sporadic act. Reflection amplifies the impact of integrity. Regularly reviewing private choices, evaluating alignment with values, and learning from missteps ensures continuous improvement. Reflective practice turns ordinary moments into conscious exercises of principle. Ask, did my actions today reflect my highest standards? Where did I compromise, even subtly? What patterns require attention? This reflection fosters a self-correcting system, strengthening the ability to act with integrity, even in increasingly complex, high-stakes situations. The reflective habit trains the mind to anticipate temptation, recognize subtle drift, and act decisively in alignment with principle. The invisible nature of integrity creates an internal economy of trust. It is a form of wealth that cannot be borrowed, bought, or imitated. Acting with integrity when unobserved establishes a self-trust that becomes unshakable. When public trials arise, this internal trust guides decision-making. Individuals who have practiced private integrity do not flinch when accountability or scrutiny arrives. They act consistently because behavior is habitual, not performative. The inner sense of reliability becomes a stabilizing force, enabling calm, rational, and confident responses under pressure. Every choice matters. Small, unseen actions accumulate into a formidable structure of character. The quiet return of honesty, the careful observation of commitments, the disciplined adherence to ethical standards. These are bricks in the foundation of a meaningful life. Integrity in private is also the ultimate test of identity. If one acts consistently with principle when alone, there is no need to perform when observed. Recognition, reward, and success are byproducts of what has already been cultivated internally. The invisible labor of integrity is thus the most powerful form of preparation for a life of meaningful impact. Life tests integrity constantly. Opportunities to compromise arise in trivial and significant ways, cutting corners at work, exaggerating accomplishments, or allowing self-interest to overshadow principle. Responding correctly is a skill developed through repetition, attention, and reflection. Integrity is not a static trait. It is a practice that evolves and strengthens through deliberate application. Each ethical choice, each moment of self-discipline, and each act of honesty performed without observation compounds into a resilient, reliable character, capable of navigating the most complex circumstances. Ultimately, integrity built in private creates a life where public performance is effortless. There is no tension between who one is and what one displays. The internal consistency forged in solitude becomes visible in all spheres, in leadership, relationships, career, and personal fulfillment. The quiet, unobserved decisions ripple outward, shaping reputation, trust, and opportunity. Integrity when nobody watches is the truest form of preparation, ensuring that when challenges arrive, the person is already whole, capable, and unwavering. It is the seed from which enduring success, respect, and self-respect inevitably grow. Number 4, master self-control before external control. True mastery begins within. Before attempting to guide, influence, or control circumstances outside yourself, the first and most essential battle is internal. Self-control is the gateway to freedom, for without it, external control over finances, relationships, time, or career is fragile at best. A person who cannot govern impulses, manage emotions, or direct attention consistently is like a ship with no rudder. It drifts wherever the tides and winds decide. The foundation of lasting achievement, influence, and authority is the ability to regulate oneself with precision, persistence, and patience. Self-control is not mere restraint. It is deliberate direction. It is choosing the long-term benefit over the immediate gratification, acting according to reason rather than reaction. Consider the mind as a muscle. It grows stronger with regular, deliberate exercise. Impulse management is like lifting a weight repeatedly. The first efforts may be uncomfortable, the second easier, but over time strength builds. The training grounds for this muscle are daily life. The decisions to avoid distractions, to complete what is started, to speak thoughtfully rather than reactively, to resist the temptation of shortcuts or indulgence. Each act of self-mastery compounds into a life of greater autonomy and power. The first practical step is awareness. Observe your impulses, habits, and triggers without judgment. Notice the moments when attention drifts, when anger flares, when desire urges immediate action. These observations are not a weakness. They are intelligence gathering. The mind cannot be controlled blindly. The battlefield must first be mapped. Journaling these tendencies, recording patterns, and noting emotional responses cultivates insight. Awareness without action is only observation, but awareness with intention is the seed of mastery. Next, establish deliberate routines to shape behavior. Structure provides leverage for self-control. Decide in advance what actions are acceptable and which are not. Set clear parameters. Specific times for work, rest, exercise, and reflection. Remove unnecessary choices that drain willpower. If decision fatigue is the enemy, structured habits become the armor. For example, having a fixed morning routine reduces the mental friction of deciding how to begin the day. Consistent routines convert effortful decisions into automatic, reliable actions. Discipline becomes embedded into the rhythm of life rather than a constant struggle. Temptation is unavoidable, but response is optional. The practice of pausing before acting is essential. Even a brief interval, 3 seconds to take a deep breath, to weigh the consequences, to reconsider the choice can shift behavior from reactive to deliberate. The pause creates space for reason to assert itself over impulse. Over time, these micro-pauses train the nervous system to favor thoughtful action, gradually transforming instinctive reactions into conscious, value-aligned decisions. Self-control becomes less about denying impulses and more about redirecting them intelligently. Small victories lead to greater control. Start with manageable challenges. Resist checking your phone for 10 minutes longer than usual. Complete a task before taking a break, or choose a healthier option when hunger tempts indulgence. Each small act reinforces the belief that impulses can be governed. Self-efficacy grows incrementally, and confidence in one's ability to maintain control expands. The cumulative effect is remarkable. Repeated, modest triumphs solidify the mental and emotional infrastructure for handling larger challenges with composure and precision. Accountability reinforces self-control. Sharing specific personal goals with a trusted partner or group enhances commitment. Knowing that someone will inquire about progress, or that a log will record success or failure, strengthens resolve. Accountability is not punishment. It is a reinforcement mechanism. It externalizes a portion of internal responsibility without ceding ownership of decision-making. The presence of accountability also serves as a mirror, reflecting how well actions align with intentions and reveals where habits require adjustment or reinforcement. Emotion regulation is central to self-control. The ability to manage anger, fear, frustration, and desire prevents reactive behaviors that can undermine long-term goals. Practice techniques such as deep breathing, visualization, or brief meditation to create distance between emotion and action. Naming emotions, acknowledging them, and then deciding on a deliberate response strengthens mental resilience. Emotional mastery is not suppression, it is recognition, understanding, and guidance of feelings toward constructive outcomes. Those who command their emotions gain clarity and the ability to respond rationally under pressure. Delayed gratification is a critical test of self-control. Opting for outcomes that accrue over time rather than seeking immediate reward develops patience, focus, and foresight. This principle applies to every domain: financial prudence, professional growth, physical training, and personal relationships. Sacrificing a small, fleeting pleasure for a long-term benefit cultivates a mindset where discipline becomes habitual. Over time, the pattern of choosing future advantage over present comfort creates a compounding effect. Life is navigated deliberately, choices are intentional, and progress is reliable. Boundaries are an extension of self-control. Knowing where to draw limits on social media, entertainment, indulgence, or emotional engagement safeguards attention and energy. Boundaries are not restrictions imposed by others, they are agreements with oneself that protect focus and integrity. By consciously designing these limits, a person reduces vulnerability to distraction and impulse. Clear boundaries reinforce autonomy, ensuring that actions align with long-term objectives rather than temporary whims. They are the scaffolding of a life governed by principle and purpose. Resilience amplifies self-control. Obstacles, failures, and setbacks are inevitable. The ability to persist without succumbing to frustration or surrender is a hallmark of mastery. Self-control includes the capacity to recover from lapses quickly, to learn from errors, and to re-engage with intention. Resilience is trained through exposure to manageable difficulty, facing discomfort, accepting constructive criticism, and enduring challenges without abandoning principles. The combination of discipline and resilience forms a mental armor that supports consistent action even in adverse circumstances. Visualization strengthens mastery. Imagine yourself acting with composure, decisively, and with consistent focus in situations that typically provoke distraction or weakness. Picture choosing delayed rewards, responding calmly to provocation, and completing commitments without deviation. Mental rehearsal prepares the mind and body for real-life execution. Over time, the imagined practice strengthens neural pathways, making deliberate action more likely when the moment arrives. Visualization bridges intention and execution, enhancing the capacity to maintain control under pressure. Freedom emerges from mastery of self. True external control over career, relationships, finances, and reputation is possible only when internal impulses are governed reliably. Leaders who lack self-regulation find their authority fragile, their influence is undermined by unpredictability. Those who cultivate self-control navigate challenges without succumbing to external pressure. They create space to choose responses deliberately, manage priorities effectively, and maintain integrity even when scrutinized. Control over oneself is the prerequisite for meaningful, lasting influence over the world. Finally, self-control is a lifelong practice, not a temporary effort. Daily challenges, evolving circumstances, and personal growth demand continuous attention. The discipline of guiding one's impulses, emotions, and choices must be maintained and strengthened throughout life. Each day provides new tests, and each deliberate response solidifies capacity. Mastery of self is iterative. Small, consistent, intentional actions accumulate into unshakable competence. As internal control solidifies, external control over time, resources, relationships, and opportunity becomes a natural extension, reliable and resilient. Mastering self-control before seeking influence in the external world is the most strategic investment a person can make. Each deliberate action, each moment of reflection, each boundary honored, and each emotion managed strengthens internal authority. Over months and years, the compound effect is profound. Confidence, resilience, and competence converge, enabling decisive, principled action. True power is the ability to act intentionally, unshaken by impulse, and guided by reason. External control, earned through internal mastery, becomes sustainable, ethical, and effective. Number 5. Consistency shapes character long-term. Character is not forged in a moment of brilliance. It is sculpted by repeated, deliberate actions over time. The small choices made consistently that accumulate into an unshakable identity. The world often celebrates spectacular achievement, yet the quiet, steady habits, the invisible repetitions, are what determine who a person becomes. Consistency shapes character long-term because it translates intentions into reliable reality, turning ideals into lived practice. Every action repeated with purpose communicates to oneself who they truly are, far more convincingly than words or fleeting victories ever could. The first step in harnessing the power of consistency is understanding that excellence is not episodic. It is habitual. Talent, opportunity, or motivation may provide occasional surges, but they do not create enduring outcomes. What matters is showing up regularly, doing the work even when inspiration is absent. Consistency transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary results because it compounds. Imagine small drops of water eroding stone. No single drop has visible impact, yet the accumulated force reshapes landscapes over years. Character is reshaped in the same way, refined gradually through repetition. To begin cultivating consistent behavior, identify the core habits that align with your values and long-term objectives. Focus on a manageable number, one or two at a time, to prevent dilution of effort. Precision is more effective than quantity. Choose actions that reflect who you want to be, completing tasks without procrastination, engaging in focused learning daily, maintaining honesty in small interactions, or adhering to a physical routine that strengthens resilience. By targeting specific behaviors, it becomes easier to track progress, adjust strategies, and build momentum. Structure is a crucial ally in sustaining consistency. Set fixed times for recurring actions, establish routines, and create triggers that cue behavior automatically. If a habit is linked to a daily ritual, it requires less mental energy to initiate and is less likely to be skipped. Environmental design reinforces consistency, removing friction that impedes desired behavior and introducing friction that discourages detrimental actions. For example, placing work materials in plain sight encourages productivity, while storing distractions out of reach reduces temptation. These small architectural choices enhance the likelihood of repeated, deliberate action. Consistency also demands patience and a long-term mindset. Immediate results are often elusive, and the human mind craves quick feedback. However, character and competence are not built overnight. They emerge from accumulation, months of disciplined practice, hundreds of small decisions made deliberately, and a steadfast refusal to abandon principles when results are delayed. Viewing the process as a marathon rather than a sprint cultivates resilience. The focus shifts from instant gratification to sustained alignment between action and aspiration. Tracking progress is vital to reinforcing consistent behavior. Record the completion of habits, the quality of effort, or reflections on daily performance. Visibility of repetition reinforces commitment and highlights patterns that require adjustment. Momentum is psychologically powerful. Once a chain of consistent action is established, breaking it feels uncomfortable, motivating persistence. Tracking is not about judgment, but awareness, allowing deliberate calibration. It turns abstract intention into tangible evidence of progress, strengthening resolve and clarifying areas for improvement. Consistency is reinforced by accountability. Share commitments with trusted individuals, mentors, or communities that value reliability. External acknowledgement amplifies internal discipline without creating dependence on praise. When others observe steady effort, it becomes more difficult to rationalize shortcuts or neglect. Yet the deepest influence of accountability is internal. It strengthens self-perception as someone who follows through, fostering pride and reliability. Over time, consistent behavior builds an identity that is resilient to lapses or temporary failures. The process of repetition refines skill as well as character. Repeated practice enhances competence, transforming initial struggles into fluent execution. Task that once felt challenging becomes manageable, and mastery emerges as a byproduct of persistence. Beyond skill acquisition, repetition conditions the mind to approach challenges systematically, building confidence in one's ability to navigate complexity. The compounding effect is profound. Consistent effort shapes both identity and capability simultaneously, preparing the individual for responsibilities that require endurance and judgment. Consistency also fosters self-trust. When actions are predictable, reliable, and aligned with values, the internal dialogue shifts from doubt to confidence. Knowing that commitments will be honored, even in private or under pressure, creates a steady foundation of integrity. Self-trust is the backbone of independence. It allows one to navigate decisions without excessive reliance on external validation. Each repeated action is a vote for one's reliability, reinforcing the mental and emotional architecture of character. Adversity tests consistency. Life presents disruptions, distractions, and temptations to deviate from established patterns. The true measure of character is visible in the response to these challenges. Continuing habits despite difficulty, adjusting methods without abandoning purpose, and maintaining alignment with long-term goals under pressure. Facing setbacks with deliberate persistence strengthens resilience. Consistency is not about perfection. It is about returning to the chosen path, making each subsequent effort deliberate, and understanding that temporary disruption does not erase cumulative progress. Reflection enhances the impact of consistent action. Evaluate the outcomes of repeated behavior, extract lessons from mistakes, and refine processes accordingly. This reflective practice prevents stagnation and ensures that repetition is purposeful rather than mechanical. The mind becomes trained to recognize what produces meaningful results, allowing the compounding effect of consistent effort to be both efficient and impactful. Reflection, when paired with repetition, transforms habit into wisdom and labor into long-term achievement. Consistency also builds credibility in relationships and leadership. People naturally gravitate toward those whose words and actions align reliably over time. Trust is the result of predictable behavior, not grand gestures. By consistently demonstrating reliability, fairness, and competence, individuals establish reputations that invite collaboration and support. In this way, character shaped by consistent action extends beyond the self, influencing communities, teams, and networks. Repeated alignment between principle and behavior becomes an invisible currency of trust that facilitates long-term impact. Micro-consistencies accumulate into macro transformation. The smallest choices, responding calmly under stress, completing minor obligations, speaking honestly, compound into a robust framework of integrity and capability. The magnitude of change is often imperceptible, day to day, yet over months and years, these choices crystallize into a distinct and powerful identity. What feels ordinary becomes extraordinary through repetition. Consistency converts effort into legacy, shaping not just immediate outcomes but enduring patterns of influence, competence, and respect. Consistency requires deliberate prioritization. Not every action deserves equal attention. Focus should be on behaviors that align with core values and strategic objectives. Discernment ensures that energy is invested in areas with the highest long-term return. Repetition without purpose can reinforce mediocrity, while targeted consistency amplifies growth, impact, and character development. Aligning daily actions with meaningful priorities ensures that repetition builds both competence and integrity rather than merely filling time. Ultimately, character is the accumulation of reliable, deliberate choices repeated over time. One's identity, reputation, and potential are reflections of these consistent acts. Consistency is not glamorous, but it is decisive. The individual who practices deliberate repetition develops patience, resilience, mastery, and trustworthiness. Success, when it arrives, is not accidental. It is the natural consequence of steady, disciplined, and purposeful behavior. Long-term character is a quiet, persistent force, invisible at first, but impossible to ignore once fully formed. Those who embrace the power of consistency shape lives, influence, and achievements that endure beyond fleeting circumstance. Number 6. Suffering teaches strength before success. Pain is often viewed as an enemy, something to avoid, numb, or escape. Yet suffering is a teacher whose lessons cannot be replicated through comfort, convenience, or fleeting pleasure. Strength is not given. It is forged in the fires of challenge, adversity, and struggle. Those who encounter difficulty and endure emerge more resilient, more disciplined, and better equipped for success. Suffering is not a detour or punishment. It is preparation. It reveals character, sharpens judgment, and develops capacities that ease cannot produce. To understand this is to realize that success is not a starting point, but a reward for the mastery cultivated in hardship. The first truth of suffering is that it exposes weaknesses. When circumstances become difficult, flaws in habit, judgment, patience, and discipline are revealed. These are not failures in themselves, but opportunities for growth. Each moment of discomfort illuminates areas where endurance, emotional regulation, and skill must improve. Rather than resisting suffering or resenting it, one can approach it as a mirror, a reflection of what must be strengthened to achieve greater aim. The ability to learn from challenge is the cornerstone of transformation. Suffering develops resilience in ways that comfort cannot. Enduring hardship teaches the mind and body to tolerate difficulty, to remain functional when conditions are unfavorable. Repeated exposure to controlled discomfort through rigorous practice, physical exertion, disciplined routines, or confronting fear trains endurance and focus. The nervous system becomes accustomed to tension, disappointment, and delay, making future obstacles easier to navigate. Strength built in adversity is lasting because it is grounded in experience rather than theory or assumption. Every trial survived expands the range of what can be handled with composure and wisdom. Patience and delayed gratification are essential lessons embedded in suffering. Immediate reward is rare when obstacles are significant. Success demands time, effort, and repeated iteration, often without visible progress. Suffering cultivates the capacity to wait, to persevere without guarantee of outcome, and to maintain commitment despite uncertainty. The discomfort of delay, frustration, and repeated effort shapes character, teaching that true achievement is earned incrementally rather than claimed instantly. Those who embrace suffering develop an inner rhythm that is not disturbed by setbacks, impatience, or external pressure. Adversity also sharpens decision-making. Under stress, clarity is tested. Choices made during hardship reveal priorities, ethics, and judgment. Repeatedly confronting difficulty develops the ability to assess situations realistically, manage resources wisely, and act decisively under pressure. Experience with suffering fosters discernment, teaching which struggles merit endurance, which actions will produce meaningful results, and which distractions must be ignored. Success becomes less a matter of luck and more a product of prepared judgment applied with precision. Suffering cultivates empathy and perspective. Experiencing difficulty personally increases sensitivity to the struggles of others. Leaders, collaborators, and individuals who endure hardship are often more attuned to the needs, fears, and motivations of those around them. This insight enhances relationships and influence, creating opportunities for meaningful collaboration and mentorship. The pain endured provides a lens through which to view the world more accurately and compassionately, fostering maturity that cannot be gained through unchallenged comfort alone. Discipline is inseparable from the lessons of suffering. Hardship requires deliberate, controlled responses rather than reactive or impulsive ones. Emotional regulation, consistent effort, and adherence to principle are tested when conditions are uncomfortable. The repeated choice to act correctly, even when it is difficult or painful, develops habits that endure beyond the immediate challenge. Suffering becomes a catalyst for self-mastery. The person who practices discipline under pressure becomes stronger, steadier, and more capable of managing greater responsibilities in the future. Strength developed through suffering is cumulative. Each encounter with challenge compounds upon the previous, forming a foundation that supports increasingly complex demands. Physical, emotional, and mental endurance grows in parallel. Early hardships that once seemed insurmountable become manageable. Future difficulties are met with confidence rather than fear. This accumulation transforms perception. Obstacles are no longer threats, but opportunities to exercise learned capability. Success arrives not because the path was easy, but because preparation through adversity has equipped one to handle what others cannot. Failure is an integral component of suffering. Each setback provides feedback, highlights blind spots, and demands adaptation. Those who embrace failure as a teacher, rather than a verdict, extract insight that is impossible to acquire otherwise. Resilience, creativity, and strategic thinking are honed through repeated encounters with difficulty. The person who endures failure without surrender builds a psychological infrastructure capable of sustaining prolonged effort toward meaningful objectives. This mindset transforms suffering from a deterrent into a resource, converting obstacles into stepping stones. Suffering also clarifies priorities. In hardship, what matters most becomes evident. Integrity, persistence, relationships, learning, and focus emerge as critical for navigation. Trivial concerns fade, and attention concentrates on actions and behaviors that produce real long-term benefit. This clarity enhances efficiency, reduces wasted effort, and strengthens alignment between values and actions. Character is not built in distraction or indulgence. It is shaped by conscious, sustained effort under challenging conditions. Reflection amplifies the lessons of suffering. Regular examination of painful experiences allows insights to crystallize into strategy, habit, and principle. What worked? What failed? How did emotions affect choices? What adjustments are necessary for future endurance? Reflection transforms raw hardship into structured growth, embedding lessons into behavior and mindset. Without reflection, suffering can become mere suffering. With reflection, it becomes training for excellence, wisdom, and resilience. The relationship between suffering and success is direct, yet nonlinear. Success does not erase the past pain. It is a product of it. Individuals who have endured and learned from hardship possess the confidence, knowledge, and stability that allow them to seize opportunities others might fear. Strength forged in adversity equips a person to navigate complexity, overcome resistance, and sustain achievement even when conditions fluctuate. Success is the natural outcome of preparation, not merely desire. Ultimately, embracing suffering cultivates mastery over self and circumstance. It transforms fear into courage, weakness into endurance, and confusion into clarity. The discomfort encountered before victory trains individuals to remain steady under pressure, think strategically under duress, and act with purpose despite uncertainty. Strength acquired through suffering is invisible to those who only observe triumph. It is revealed in calmness under challenge, decisiveness in adversity, and the refusal to abandon effort when the immediate outcome is unfavorable. A life shaped by suffering recognizes that difficulty is not an obstacle to success, but a prerequisite for it. Challenges refine skill, build resilience, and deepen understanding. Pain teaches lessons that ease cannot provide, and effort under pressure produces an internal fortitude that supports lasting achievement. The person who welcomes struggle with intention, patience, and discipline develops the mental, emotional, and physical capacities to navigate life with competence and confidence. Strength emerges before success because enduring hardship is the crucible in which capability, courage, and character are forged, producing victories that are meaningful, sustainable, and fully earned. Number 7. Humility practiced prior to power. Humility is often mistaken for weakness, yet it is the foundation upon which true influence and enduring power are built. It is the quiet acknowledgement that no accomplishment is solitary, that knowledge is never complete, and that leadership requires more listening than speaking. Those who seek power without cultivating humility risk being blinded by ego, susceptible to poor judgment, and isolated by their own arrogance. Practicing humility before attaining authority creates a solid foundation for responsible, effective, and sustainable leadership. It is a preparation of the heart and mind, ensuring that when power arrives, it is wielded with wisdom rather than entitlement. The practice of humility begins with self-awareness. It requires a clear-eyed evaluation of one's strengths, limitations, and vulnerabilities. A humble person does not diminish their abilities, but recognizes the scope and boundaries of their capacity. This awareness cultivates curiosity, openness, and a willingness to learn. Every interaction, every challenge becomes an opportunity to grow, rather than a stage to prove superiority. The habits developed in this state, listening carefully, seeking guidance, acknowledging mistakes, prepare an individual to exercise power without succumbing to impulsive pride or short-sighted ambition. Humility is reinforced by the habit of service. True leaders do not prioritize personal gain above the welfare of others. Serving others, contributing without expectation of recognition, and addressing needs quietly cultivates perspective. When one practices humility consistently, it conditions the mind to value collaboration, empathy, and the contributions of those around them. Power that emerges from a foundation of service is more durable because it is built on trust and mutual respect rather than coercion or fear. Practicing small acts of consideration and accountability daily establishes the patterns necessary for influence later. Acknowledging ignorance is another essential element of humility. Every person, no matter how skilled or accomplished, faces limits of knowledge and experience. Those who recognize gaps in understanding are more likely to ask questions, seek advice, and integrate diverse perspectives. This mindset strengthens decision-making and prevents arrogance from clouding judgment. Humility practiced before power fosters the habit of careful deliberation, evaluating evidence, listening to alternative viewpoints, and resisting impulsive action. These behaviors establish a temperament capable of handling authority thoughtfully and responsibly. Humility also demands the acceptance of failure and criticism. Mistakes are inevitable, yet they reveal opportunities for learning. A humble person does not deflect blame or rationalize errors, but examines them candidly. They respond to critique with openness rather than defensiveness, using insight to refine behavior and strategy. This ability to face imperfection honestly equips a person for the responsibilities of power. When authority is attained, those who have mastered humility are less likely to be shaken by dissent, more capable of constructive adaptation, and better able to foster environments where others feel respected and heard. Empathy is a natural extension of humility. Understanding the perspectives, challenges, and emotions of others allows for more informed and compassionate leadership. Practicing humility before acquiring influence ensures that decisions are not dictated solely by self-interest, but are informed by awareness of the collective impact. The ability to consider consequences beyond oneself reduces the risk of abuse, fosters loyalty, and enhances credibility. Empathy embedded in humility strengthens relationships, encourages collaboration, and ensures that authority is exercised ethically. Patience is a companion to humility. Power often tempts immediate action, rapid escalation, and visible dominance. A humble mindset prioritizes deliberate, thoughtful responses. It teaches restraint, allowing for the assessment of long-term effects, rather than succumbing to impulsive action or pride-driven decision-making. Practicing patience in small, routine decisions before attaining formal power develops the discipline required to navigate complex responsibilities and high-stakes situations effectively. The capacity to wait, observe, and respond judiciously is an invaluable tool for sustainable influence. Listening actively is another critical practice. Humility is expressed through the willingness to hear others fully, to suspend judgment, and to consider alternative perspectives without ego-driven interruption. This skill, cultivated in daily interactions, strengthens relational intelligence and prepares one to guide, persuade, and negotiate effectively when authority is granted. Leaders who have practiced listening before power are more likely to inspire trust and collaboration, rather than command compliance through force or intimidation. Reflection is central to the cultivation of humility. Regular evaluation of one's actions, motivations, and impact reinforces accountability. Journaling successes, failures, and observations allows the mind to assess whether behavior aligns with principles and values. Reflection teaches discernment, helping individuals distinguish between self-serving impulses and constructive choices. Those who develop this habit before attaining power carry a built-in mechanism for ethical oversight, ensuring that decisions remain grounded in principle rather than ego. Gratitude strengthens humility by shifting focus from entitlement to recognition of interconnectedness. Practicing gratitude for support, opportunity, and learning experiences reinforces the understanding that no one achieves success in isolation. It cultivates perspective, reminding individuals of the role others play in their achievements. Those who internalize gratitude early are less likely to misuse power and more likely to cultivate inclusive, respectful environments. Gratitude nurtures humility by acknowledging dependence, interconnection, and shared contribution. Humility practiced before power also involves managing recognition appropriately. Accepting praise without arrogance and deflecting credit where appropriate develops emotional intelligence and self-regulation. These behaviors prevent ego inflation, which often leads to reckless or self-serving decisions when authority is attained. A disciplined approach to acknowledgement ensures that when leadership is achieved, it is exercised with responsibility and awareness of both privilege and obligation. Discipline reinforces humility through routine, controlled and deliberate practice. By consistently choosing thoughtful action, exercising restraint, and aligning behavior with values, individuals build character that supports ethical leadership. Discipline before power ensures that influence is wielded as a tool for constructive action rather than unchecked dominance. It also strengthens the resilience to withstand criticism, failure, and challenges without resorting to defensiveness or impulsivity. Finally, practicing humility before power develops a mindset of service, responsibility, and accountability that naturally scales with influence. Those who have cultivated humility understand that authority is not an entitlement, but a trust. Decisions are made with awareness of impact, with careful deliberation, and with respect for the dignity of others. Power, when paired with pre-earned humility, becomes sustainable, ethical, and effective. Leadership is not merely about exerting control, but about guiding wisely, acting justly, and inspiring through example. Humility is both a shield and a lens. It protects against hubris and short-sightedness, while providing clarity for ethical judgment. Practicing humility in private life, before formal recognition or authority, trains the mind to act ethically, listen attentively, and lead responsibly. When influence arrives, it is supported by a foundation of respect, empathy, and disciplined awareness. Character shaped through humility ensures that power enhances rather than diminishes the person wielding it, producing leadership that is enduring, meaningful, and transformative. The discipline of humility before authority cultivates foresight, steadiness, and emotional intelligence. It prepares individuals to navigate the complexities of responsibility without being consumed by ego. Every act of modesty, reflection, service, and acknowledgement of others strengthens the capacity to wield power wisely. Those who integrate humility into daily practice are equipped to face the temptations, challenges, and decisions inherent in leadership with grace, integrity, and balance. Influence exercised with pre-earned humility is resilient, respected, and constructive, ensuring that achievements are sustainable and character remains intact. In essence, practicing humility before power is preparation for the responsibilities, pressures, and challenges that authority entails. It shapes judgments, strengthens relationships, and develops the inner resilience necessary to act with integrity under scrutiny. Humility ensures that when leadership or influence arrives, it is guided by wisdom, anchored in self-awareness, and expressed through service rather than ego. The individual who masters humility prior to power creates a life of meaningful impact, sustainable authority, and enduring respect. Number 8. Accountability creates leaders before titles. Accountability is the cornerstone of authentic leadership. Titles, accolades, or formal positions may grant visibility, but they do not automatically create influence or respect. True leaders emerge not from authority bestowed upon them, but from a consistent willingness to own their actions, decisions, and their consequences. Accountability is the practice of taking full responsibility for both successes and failures, regardless of external acknowledgement. Those who embrace accountability develop the self-discipline, reliability, and credibility that naturally attract trust and authority, even before formal leadership is assigned. Leadership grounded in accountability begins with self-responsibility. This requires an unflinching examination of choices, behaviors, and their outcomes. When mistakes occur, the accountable individual resists the impulse to shift blame or rationalize. Instead, they confront the situation honestly, assess what went wrong, and take steps to correct it. This practice strengthens integrity, teaches humility, and signals to others that the person can be trusted. Ownership of actions is the signal that a person is capable of stewardship, whether over a team, a project, or an organization. The habit of accountability develops through daily decisions. Even small commitments, when consistently honored, reinforce credibility. Meeting deadlines, fulfilling promises, and following through on responsibilities demonstrate reliability. When accountability is exercised in routine circumstances, it becomes instinctive in high-pressure situations. People who practice this consistently are trusted because others have evidence that their word aligns with action. Leadership is thus earned gradually, through the accumulation of reliable behavior, rather than through designation alone. Transparency is a key component of accountability. Leaders who are open about processes, limitations, and outcomes foster trust and clarity. Admitting gaps in knowledge, acknowledging mistakes, and providing honest assessments create an environment where reliability is visible. Transparency builds confidence in decision-making because others can see that the individual does not conceal errors or avoid responsibility. This creates a culture of openness, where collaboration is strengthened and collective success becomes attainable. Accountability enhances decision-making. Individuals who take responsibility for outcomes develop foresight and care in planning. They consider potential consequences before acting, weigh risks thoughtfully, and remain deliberate rather than impulsive. Repeated practice of responsibility nurtures judgment, enabling the accountable individual to navigate complex scenarios with composure and wisdom. When a person internalizes that their choices carry weight, they naturally cultivate strategic thinking and ethical decision-making. Feedback becomes a tool for growth when accountability is embraced. The accountable individual actively seeks input, evaluates performance, and adjusts behaviors in response to constructive criticism. This transforms potential weaknesses into opportunities for development and ensures that learning is continuous. Leaders who integrate feedback without defensiveness demonstrate adaptability, resilience, and commitment to improve. Accountability is therefore not punitive. It is instructive, guiding personal evolution and fostering the skills necessary for effective leadership. Consistency amplifies the effects of accountability. When responsibility is assumed regularly, it establishes a pattern of trustworthiness that others recognize. Consistency in owning outcomes communicates reliability and earns credibility over time. Teams, peers, and supervisors notice repeated patterns of behavior more than isolated acts of competence. Leadership in this sense is less about asserting authority and more about demonstrating steady, dependable character. Repeated accountability is a silent form of influence that precedes formal titles. Accountable individuals develop resilience under pressure. Mistakes, setbacks, and criticism are inevitable in any meaningful pursuit. Those who have practiced ownership are prepared to face these challenges without deflection or denial. Resilience is strengthened through experience with responsibility, learning to recover, analyze, and adjust in the wake of adversity. The ability to remain composed, proactive, and solution-focused in difficult circumstances is a defining trait of leaders, cultivated long before they assume formal positions of authority. Trust is the currency of influence, and accountability is the mechanism that generates it. People naturally follow those who consistently demonstrate responsibility, integrity, and transparency. Trust is not given lightly. It is earned through repeated evidence that one's actions align with words. By taking ownership of commitments and outcomes, individuals establish a track record that signals reliability. This track record attracts opportunities to lead, influence, and guide others, even in the absence of formal titles. Accountability also fosters humility. Accepting responsibility requires recognition that no outcome is solely attributable to luck or external factors. It acknowledges the limits of personal control while emphasizing the areas where effort and influence matter most. Humility and accountability together shape character, ensuring that leadership emerges from competence and integrity, rather than arrogance or entitlement. Those who practice this combination develop a presence that inspires confidence without relying on positional authority. The habit of accountability extends to interpersonal interactions. Leaders who hold themselves responsible for how they treat others, communicate, and contribute to shared objectives create a culture of respect. By modeling ownership, they encourage colleagues to do the same, amplifying collective responsibility. This environment fosters cooperation, reduces conflict, and increases efficiency, further reinforcing the perception of leadership through action rather than title. Accountability, in effect, multiplies influence across teams and networks. Accountability teaches foresight and discipline. When individuals recognize that every action has consequences, they become more deliberate in planning, more precise in execution, and more conscientious in evaluation. Long-term success is rarely the product of random effort. It emerges from intentional, measured behavior that is consistent and reflective. Those who internalize this principle act with strategy and awareness, developing capabilities that are recognized by others as leadership qualities. Reflection is an essential companion to accountability. Regularly reviewing actions, outcomes, and decisions allows individuals to extract lessons and refine approaches. This process transforms experience into wisdom, enabling more effective future choices. Leaders who engage in deliberate reflection demonstrate self-awareness, adaptability, and commitment to growth, qualities that inspire confidence and foster influence before any title is assigned. Ultimately, accountability transforms potential into capability. It creates a foundation of trust, integrity, and reliability that allows individuals to assume influence naturally. Leaders are recognized not merely by position but by the consistent pattern of responsible behavior, ethical decision-making, and willingness to own outcomes. Accountability ensures that when formal authority is granted, it is reinforced by a history of dependable action, ethical conduct, and earned respect. Individuals who embrace accountability before seeking titles cultivate the habits, judgment, and character that distinguish effective leaders. They navigate challenges thoughtfully, engage with others constructively, and consistently align actions with principles. Influence, credibility, and respect follow naturally from a foundation of responsibility. By practicing accountability daily, leadership is internalized, embodied, and demonstrated long before any formal designation signals it. In essence, accountability is the training ground for authentic authority. It develops resilience, trust, ethical judgment, and relational intelligence. Those who take ownership of actions, outcomes, and commitments cultivate the qualities that draw others to follow, creating leadership that is grounded, respected, and sustainable. Titles may formalize responsibility, but the habits of accountability cultivate the capacity to lead with confidence, wisdom, and integrity well before any recognition is granted. The person who masters this principle embodies leadership in every decision, action, and interaction, establishing influence that is earned, not bestowed. Number 9. Habits define you before results. Habits are the invisible architects of a person's life. Before any results, achievements, or external recognition manifest, habits shape identity, influence choices, and determine the trajectory of one's path. Results are the outcomes of repeated behaviors, and those behaviors in turn are the product of habitual patterns. To focus solely on outcomes without cultivating the underlying habits is to attempt to harvest fruit from an unplanted tree. Habits define character long before success is visible, because they are the mechanisms through which effort becomes meaningful, disciplined, and sustainable. The first step in understanding the power of habits is recognizing that they operate largely unconsciously. A single action repeated over time becomes automatic, directing attention, energy, and effort without requiring constant deliberation. This automation frees mental capacity for higher-level thinking, but also means that undisciplined or detrimental behaviors accumulate quietly, shaping identity in ways often unnoticed until the consequences appear. Conscious attention to daily patterns allows the individual to intentionally construct habits that reflect values, goals, and principles. Consistency is central to habit formation. Small actions repeated consistently have a compounding effect. Waking up at a set time, completing a daily task, journaling thoughts, or committing to a brief exercise routine may seem inconsequential in isolation, but when repeated, they solidify into identity-shaping practices. These routines create momentum, a force that propels the individual toward increasingly complex objectives. Habits serve as the framework through which effort transforms into capability and character, independent of immediate outcome. Intentionality underpins effective habit development, Random or sporadic actions rarely produce meaningful change. Each habit must be chosen with purpose, aligned with the broader vision for one's life. For instance, cultivating the habit of daily reading is not valuable simply because it is productive. Its significance lies in reinforcing curiosity, critical thinking, and discipline. Similarly, habits that prioritize physical health, reflection, or emotional regulations serve as foundational behaviors that influence decision-making, resilience, and interpersonal effectiveness over time. Environment shapes habits profoundly. Surroundings can either facilitate desired behaviors or enable detrimental ones. Designing environments that support constructive routines simplifies the process of habit formation. If the goal is to develop focus, minimizing distractions in the workspace, or creating visible reminders of tasks, enhances the likelihood of consistent execution. Conversely, environments that encourage procrastination, indulgence, or distraction undermine the ability to maintain behaviors that define character. Habits are strengthened by structures that reduce friction for positive actions and introduce friction for negative impulse. Self-awareness is necessary for habit management. Tracking behaviors, reflecting on patterns, and evaluating outcomes allows for conscious intervention in daily routines. Habits often operate unnoticed, yet their influence is pervasive. By regularly reviewing actions, individuals can identify which behaviors align with desired identity and which undermine it. Adjustment, reinforcement, and refinement of habits ensure that character development remains intentional rather than accidental. Awareness transforms passive repetition into purposeful cultivation of self. Habits influence perception as well as performance. Individuals are judged not only by outcomes but by consistency of behavior. Reliability, punctuality, attentiveness, and follow-through, all expressions of habitual patterns, communicate character and competence, even before measurable results appear. People are naturally drawn to those whose daily behaviors reflect integrity, focus, and discipline. In this way, habits shape external perception, creating credibility and trust before formal achievements manifest. Habits also regulate emotional and mental responses. Practices such as mindfulness, deliberate reflection, and structured problem-solving train the mind to respond rather than react. The habitual management of attention, emotion, and impulse determines how effectively an individual navigates challenges, setbacks, and uncertainty. Those who cultivate mental discipline through routine behaviors develop resilience and composure that precede and indeed enable long-term results. Character becomes evident in the way a person handles stress, maintains focus, and consistently chooses principle over impulse. The compounding effect of habits magnifies over time. 100 small, deliberate actions repeated consistently accumulate into profound transformation. Habits are the engines of incremental improvement. The consistent application of effort, reflection, and discipline produces results far beyond what sporadic, unstructured attempts can achieve. By prioritizing behaviors over outcomes, the individual ensures that success is not dependent on luck or circumstance, but on a stable foundation of reliable practice. Habits also shape identity through reinforcement of values. Repeated actions create self-perception. The individual who habitually prepares thoroughly sees themselves as disciplined. The person who consistently listens and engages empathically internalizes a self-concept of reliability and compassion. This self-perception guides future choices, creating a feedback loop in which habits define identity, and identity reinforces habits. Results are then a natural consequence of who the person has become, rather than the sole measure of worth or capability. Accountability strengthens habit formation. Committing to daily practices publicly, sharing progress, or tracking behavior increases consistency. External reinforcement encourages persistence, while internal commitment develops self-trust. Those who maintain accountability cultivate discipline, integrity, and resilience, all of which are components of character. Leadership and influence often follow from the habitual demonstration of reliability, competence, and responsibility, long before external results are measurable. Habits also train patience. The development of skill, mastery, and capability requires sustained, repetitive effort over time. Immediate results are rarely visible, yet the disciplined maintenance of habits ensures gradual accumulation of competence. Individuals who embrace this process cultivate endurance, delayed gratification, and perspective, allowing them to remain committed to growth even when outcomes are delayed or uncertain. Patience reinforced through routine behaviors fosters long-term effectiveness, emotional stability, and strategic foresight. Failure serves as a critical teacher in the context of habit. When desired results do not immediately manifest, habitual practice ensures continued progress. The individual learns to distinguish between temporary setbacks and patterns that require adjustment. Habits create structure that stabilizes behavior during periods of uncertainty, ensuring that effort continues to compound and that character remains intact. Success is not determined by the absence of failure, but by the disciplined persistence of constructive behaviors that define identity over time. Every decision, repeated consistently, contributes to the architecture of the self. Morning routines, work ethic, responses to challenges, patterns of learning, and interpersonal behaviors accumulate into a coherent identity. Results are downstream effects, reflections of habitual character, rather than spontaneous accomplishments. Those who focus on cultivating disciplined, values-aligned habits position themselves for sustainable success, influence, and personal growth. Ultimately, habits define the trajectory of a life long before measurable outcomes appear. They shape thought, behavior, perception, and identity. Success is the natural consequence of well-chosen, consistently practiced behaviors. Results cannot precede the formation of character through habits. They are echoes of internal discipline made visible externally. By prioritizing intentional habits, individuals ensure that when achievement arrives, it is durable, meaningful, and reflective of a cultivated, capable, and principled self. Habits, practiced diligently and consciously, create a life where identity and results are aligned, and character becomes the defining force behind every accomplishment. Number 10. Patience, earned long before prosperity. Patience is the quiet force that underpins every lasting achievement. Prosperity often appears as a sudden event, a visible result that seems to arrive overnight. Yet beneath it lies years of unseen preparation, restraint, and endurance. True success is rarely immediate, and the ability to wait, persevere, and maintain focus long before the rewards manifest is what separates fleeting accomplishment from enduring prosperity. Patience is earned through consistent practice, self-discipline, and a conscious acceptance of delayed gratification, shaping character and capacity in ways that immediate reward never can. The foundation of patience is understanding time as an ally, rather than an enemy. Many abandon effort when progress seems slow, equating speed with worth. Yet growth, learning, and mastery follow rhythms that cannot be rushed. Every skill acquired, every habit formed, and every insight gained requires repetition and reflection. The patient individual aligns effort with these natural rhythms, recognizing that meaningful outcomes are the product of sustained investment over time, rather than instantaneous triumph. Patience allows action to be deliberate, measured, and guided by principle, rather than reactionary impulses. Resilience is cultivated through the practice of waiting. Delayed gratification is not merely a moral ideal. It is a practical tool that trains the mind to tolerate discomfort without surrendering focus. By choosing long-term benefit over immediate pleasure, individuals strengthen mental and emotional endurance. The ability to remain calm, composed, and intentional in the face of postponed rewards is a skill that compounds, preparing one for complex challenges and high-stakes decisions. Patience shapes temperament, instilling a balance between ambition and steadiness. Reflection is essential in developing patience. Periodic assessment of progress, decisions, and outcomes provides clarity and reinforces commitment. Reflection transforms the passage of time from a source of frustration into an instrument of growth. By observing how efforts accumulate, how learning deepens, and how incremental actions yield compound effects, the individual internalizes the principle that success is built gradually. This awareness strengthens resolve, reduces anxiety over delays, and fosters a strategic approach to goals. Patience also emerges from humility. Recognizing that outcomes are often influenced by factors beyond immediate control fosters acceptance and perspective. Not everything can be forced, manipulated, or rushed without compromising quality or integrity. Humility tempers desire for instant success and encourages alignment with natural processes, cultivating a mindset that values sustained effort and consistent contribution over superficial or short-term gains. Humility and patience together create a balanced, grounded approach to achieve. Discipline is inseparable from patience. Maintaining consistent effort in the absence of immediate reward requires structure and self-regulation. Daily actions repeated reliably reinforce commitment and maintain momentum, even when progress is not immediately visible. The disciplined individual understands that small intentional steps accumulate over time, producing results far greater than sporadic bursts of effort. Discipline transforms the act of waiting into purposeful preparation, ensuring that patience is active rather than passive. Patience strengthens decision-making. Impulsive choices often arise from a desire for immediate reward, leading to errors, miscalculations, or missed opportunities. By cultivating the capacity to pause, evaluate, and act with foresight, individuals make more informed, effective decisions. The patient mindset encourages careful planning, strategic prioritization, and thoughtful action, all of which increase the likelihood of sustainable success. Waiting cultivates clarity, perspective, and prudence. Accountability reinforces patience by embedding responsibility into effort. Committing to long-term goals and tracking progress requires regular reflection and adjustment. Accountability ensures that waiting is accompanied by continuous, deliberate action rather than idleness. It transforms delayed outcomes from a source of frustration into a motivator for persistence. Those who combine patience with accountability cultivate resilience, focus, and competence, positioning themselves for prosperity when the conditions align. Patience is inseparable from perspective. Understanding the broader context of effort, timing, and consequence reduces anxiety and fosters equilibrium. Short-term setbacks, slow progress, or temporary obstacles are reframed as integral steps in the journey, rather than as definitive failures. Perspective allows one to maintain motivation, focus, and emotional stability over extended periods, ensuring that patience is sustained through the inevitable challenges of pursuit. Learning to embrace discomfort is central to earning patience. Waiting often requires enduring uncertainty, resisting impulse, and tolerating frustration. By practicing control over immediate desires, individuals develop strength of will and mental fortitude. The discomfort of deferred gratification teaches the mind to prioritize meaningful objectives over ephemeral satisfaction. This capability becomes a core advantage in navigating complex projects, relationships, and personal growth, where the temptation for shortcuts or premature action can derail progress. Patience amplifies the power of compounding. Effort repeated over time, when guided by strategy and discipline, accumulates exponentially. Knowledge deepens, skills improve, relationships strengthen, and opportunities compound, creating a foundation for prosperity that is both substantial and resilient. Impatience, by contrast, often truncates progress, forcing premature conclusions and undermining potential. Those who cultivate patience long before visible reward ensure that success, when it arrives, is built on a robust, enduring foundation. Observation and learning accelerate the benefits of patience. By attentively monitoring progress, outcomes, and patterns, individuals refine their strategies while waiting. They identify what works, eliminate ineffective actions, and align effort with meaningful objectives. Active observation transforms passive waiting into intentional preparation, allowing growth to continue even before external signs of prosperity emerge. Patience, combined with adaptive learning, creates a cycle of continuous improvement and strategic advancement. Empathy and patience are intertwined. Understanding that others also require time to grow, develop, or contribute encourages measured, supportive engagement. In personal, professional, and communal contexts, patience enables stronger relationships, effective collaboration, and the cultivation of trust. Individuals who practice patience internally are better equipped to exercise it externally, creating environments where sustainable success and mutual benefit can flourish. Patience before prosperity fosters gratitude, recognizing incremental progress, acknowledging small victories, and valuing the journey itself strengthens resilience and motivation. Gratitude transforms waiting into a positive experience, emphasizing growth over instant reward. This mindset reduces frustration, maintains morale, and encourages continued effort, ensuring that the pursuit of success remains sustainable and fulfilling. Ultimately, patience earned before prosperity prepares individuals for responsibility, complexity, and opportunity. Those who practice waiting, persistence, and deliberate effort develop the emotional and cognitive capacities necessary to handle success wisely. Prosperity is fleeting without the tempering effect of patience. Wealth, achievement, and influence require the ability to endure, learn, and act with foresight. By cultivating patience early, individuals ensure that when prosperity arrives, it is supported by experience, discipline, and maturity. The cultivation of patience transforms the individual before it transforms circumstances. It develops endurance, strategic thinking, resilience, and clarity. It trains the mind to prioritize long-term benefit over short-term gratification and equips the individual to navigate uncertainty, challenge, and complexity effectively. Patience ensures that prosperity is not merely attained, but managed wisely, enabling lasting impact and sustainable growth. Earning patience is an ongoing practice, embedded in daily choices, habitual reflection, and disciplined action. Each moment of restraint, each calculated delay, each conscious decision to endure strengthens the foundation for long-term success. The ability to wait, sustain effort, and act with foresight precedes prosperity, shaping the individual into a person capable of achieving, managing, and maintaining meaningful accomplishment. Patience is not passive. It is an active, deliberate cultivation of readiness for the rewards that only time, effort, and endurance can produce. In essence, patience earned long before prosperity is the prerequisite for meaningful achievement. It prepares the mind, heart, and habits to receive and sustain success. Those who master patience develop resilience, foresight, discipline, and strategic judgment, ensuring that when prosperity arrives, it is met with wisdom, composure, and integrity. Patience shapes character, guides action, and creates the fertile ground upon which lasting success is built. It is the invisible architect behind achievement, the quiet force that transforms effort into enduring results, long before recognition, reward, or wealth are visible.